And now for the last but very much not the least, I'm very much looking forward to our conversation with Mulally, the CEO of Ford. Ford is just an amazing story, not just as a symbol of America's, at its best, but as a turnaround as well. Alan took over in 2006, but it was only 2008, 2009 when the car industry was in disarray. Ford's price, I think, dipped intraday below $1.
Yes, exactly right.
At one point, and he has just finished one of the best quarters in Ford's 107-year history, and is now worth $42 billion, or as we say, 42 Instagrams, or half of Facebook. But this is a reflection of the engine of American economy, which was creating extraordinary number of jobs, and the kind of valuations that we've been talking about in the technology industry all day, and the sort of disconnect between the two. But tell me a little bit about what this extraordinary roller coaster you've been on for the last few years.
Well, I had this wonderful life at Boeing, and I was there for 37 years, and I had a chance to serve on the design for all the Boeing commercial airplanes. And I had one more airplane that I wanted to participate in, and that was the replacement of the 737. And then I got a call from Bill Ford of the Ford Motor Company, the great-grandson of Henry Ford. And he told me about the situation, and as you pointed out, it was pretty tough. The industry was slowing down. Of course, the economies were slowing down. Fuel prices were moving up, and it was pretty tough. And in the end, I think what really meant so much to me was I felt like I was being asked to serve a second American and global icon. And I care deeply about manufacturing, contributing to the economy, energy independence and security, and of course environmental sustainability. And here I had a chance to maybe help. A second American and global icon. The situation was pretty tough, as you pointed out. The first forecast that I was presented on the profitability for 2006, and this was September 2006, was a $17 billion loss, and we were able to achieve that. I might point out that you can run out of money really fast at that rate, and of course, the situation that Ford was in is that we had become a house of brands. We had Aston Martin and Jaguar and Land Rover and Volvo and Mazda and of course Ford and Lincoln and Mercury. And we were very regionalized, and Henry Ford set up Ford to participate in all the countries in which he sold vehicles because he wanted to be part of the economy and provide not only great vehicles but great careers and jobs. But we were operating very regionally, so we had no scale to operate with the best global companies in the world. And even though Ford made good vehicles, they never made a commitment to being best in class. And so against that situation, we were losing money on most of the brands and on most of the models. So clearly we had to move decisively to a different model for Ford. So the big decisions that we made, one was to focus on the Ford brand, and we divested all of the others, and that was about 80% of the business worldwide. Then the next commitment we made was a brand promise to the consumers that we would, when you walked into a Ford store, you could choose between a full family of vehicles, small, medium, and large, cars, utilities, and trucks, whatever worked for you. And the next one was that no more just competitive, but we were going to be best in class. And we defined it, and it's interesting, Chris, because it was very universal around the world. Quality, fuel efficiency, low CO2, smart design like Sync and My Ford, and also safety. And the consumers around the world want those same four characteristics, no matter whether it's a Fiesta or whether it's an F-150. So that was a wonderfully enabling thing for the team. And then, of course, the One Ford part of the plan was to use all of our resources worldwide and bring the technology and innovation that we had to deliver on that brand promise. And It's just, I'm just so pleased for all the stakeholders associated with Ford that we now have created an exciting, viably, profitably going forward. And you can remember that we took out that small home improvement loan at $23.5 billion. And we actually leveraged the blue oval, the beautiful blue oval, that brand promise. And I'm so pleased that now we have repaid the entire loan, and we've moved back to investment grade with one of the rating agencies. And when the second rating agency moves us to investment grade, then we get the blue oval back plus all of our assets. And it's so neat now as the economy is starting to come back that we have this great family of vehicles for the consumers to choose from.
You know, in the other car companies declared bankruptcy. Ford did not. And now what we've learned from the airlines is that it's an advantage. First to bankruptcy wins, right? Because you get to renegotiate labor contracts, et cetera. How does that play out in the car industry? Are you at a disadvantage by not having declared bankruptcy, weirdly enough?
Well, that's a great question, Chris. Absolutely, it's turned out absolutely not. And that was a big decision that we made. And as you all remember, we actually testified on behalf of our bankrupt competitors. And the reason we did, and a lot of people want to know, is because the U.S. at that time, and two presidents and all their economic advisors, and we agreed, if the automobile industry, which is nearly 12 to 14% of the U.S. GDP, plus another 10 jobs for everyone in the manufacturing and the enabling technology sector, we could have contributed to the United States going from a recession into a depression. So we actually testified on behalf of our competitors that they received temporary money. I didn't anticipate that we, the taxpayer, would own them, but we did believe it was the right thing to do, and I think that we would do that again. Now, on the other hand, what was so interesting is that within a week or so of all the hearings, remember the hearings, and it's on C-SPAN, it's everywhere, nearly 98% of all the people in the United States knew what was happening. They knew our competitors are bankrupt. They knew the economy was slowing down. Remember the TARP and the financing. And the United States took very aggressive, good action to deal with the situation. But also within a couple of weeks, nearly 74% of the people now had checked in on the websites, checked out all the Ford vehicles, and 74% were considering a Ford for their next vehicle. So the goodwill of creating a strong business that's growing without taking precious taxpayer money has turned out to be just an unbelievably neat thing for the Ford brand.
So people will fly a bankrupt airline, but they won't buy a bankrupt car?
Well, I'm really pleased with the Ford plan.
All right. On that note, we picked the title, the notion of the car as the ultimate mobile app, and by that we weren't just talking about the telematics and the dashboards, et cetera, more the sort of the notion of a network. Increasingly, I was visiting the Tesla factory in Silicon Valley, and which is basically a car, electric car, and you now make electric cars. They're like laptops on wheels, right? Lithium-ion batteries.
Sure.
Tons of software, basically designed around the battery, composite frames. It's basically Apple could be making, a car because many of the same manufacturing techniques exist. And so that integration between, the electric networks, the telecommunication networks, and the human networks, the sort of interactions we expect with our devices, is what we were going for with that metaphor of a mobile app. But when you think of the car as an app, I mean, do you mean it to mean sort of an extension of your phone in that way?
Absolutely, and this is such an exciting development. And remember those four pillars of the quality, the fuel efficiency, the safety, and the smart design. When we were watching the consumer electronics industry evolve, especially with the smartphones, then it was really clear to us that the consumer would not want to have a disconnected life. They want to have one life. They want to be connected inside the vehicle as well as outside the vehicle. And then another thing that was very interesting, Chris, on the convergence of the technology roadmap on the vehicle, because clearly we're moving from internal combustion engines, whether they're petrol or diesel, to more alternative fuels, including biomass and ethanols and especially natural gas now. But also the one that really looks promising are the electrification of the vehicles. And we're still working on a tremendous possibility, and that is in hydrogen, where you could, and then we could actually be generating the energy clean and then using it clean, which would be what we all want. And so when we decided that we were all going to be paying more for energy, and we adopted this technology roadmap, and just like your point about the electric vehicles today, so from Ford you can get not only a petrol or diesel that's the most efficient in its class, but you can get a hybrid, You can get a plug-in hybrid with a little bit bigger battery like the ones that you mentioned at Tesla, or you can get an all-electric vehicle like Tesla has. And depending on what your lifestyle is, you have the power of choice from Ford. Now, beginning back to your thought about the integrated solution, so the applications that we are developing now with Microsoft and our other technology partners is that you can manage your life through your smartphone also, because we didn't want to build the capability into the vehicle. We wanted to move with the consumer electronic speed and capability. So our system is all voice activated, hands are on the wheel, eyes are on the road, and then use the capability of the smartphone that you bring in, which means you also can use that capability outside the vehicle. So take the new Focus Electric, which, you know, over 100 miles per gallon equivalent on the fuel efficiency. You can, from anywhere inside the car, outside the car, you can check your car, you can check its charge, you can check all the stations where the route that you want to go and where you can charge, which ones are available. You can also use the applications that the energy companies and Microsoft are working on, that you can also find out where on the grid is the right time to charge and when to charge, when's the most economical time to charge, and you can also set the charging by your phone also. So it's almost like your mobile app point of view, is that we want to make it so easy for you to have the vehicle that works for you as far as the energy source, but for you to be able to manage that in your life.
I was recently shopping for a car, and there's never been harder to buy a car today because of all these technology directions, these energy directions. You know, should I go for, you know, for hybrid? Should I go for plug hybrid? Should I go for pure electric? Should I go for diesel? Should I go for high efficiency gas? Should I go for, you know, LNG, or for, you know, and you know, clearly, you know, one of these or several of these are going to win, and some will not. But you feel like you're at one of these kind of transition phases between the industry as it was for 100 years and the industry as it will be for the next 100 years. And it's very difficult to know, as a regular consumer, which will win. Is it difficult as a CEO of a car company to make the same bets?
Well, on one hand, it certainly is. On the other hand, because we really don't know which one is going to be the preferred longer-term solution, then we need to invest in all of them. And that's why we chose that roadmap, because with our scale, whatever improvement we make, whether it's an internal combustion engine with direct fuel injection or turbocharging, and whatever we do, or electrification or hydrogen, because of our scale, we make a tremendous contribution to fuel efficiency and CO2 reduction. So our plan is to keep investing in each of the technologies and then migrate it up through that clean roadmap. I think another thing that's happening around the world, and also in the United States, is where do we, as citizens of the world, really want to go with energy, and what's our energy policy to get us there? Because you know, clearly the use of the energy in a clean way is important, but also the generation of the energy is going to be very important. And we're very gratified that we're seeing more conversation, public-private partnership, government leadership, about where do we really want to go. The neat thing about a company like Ford is that we're right in the intersection of those big things that we all care about. It's so important that we grow the economy for the good of all of us. It's also important that we're making progress on energy independence, but also energy security, and also that we're contributing to our long-term goals of environmental sustainability. And so it's a neat thing about Ford to deal with those, but also to pull everybody in to deal with them together, because we've got some big decisions to make as the citizens of the world.
Building on this sort of, you know, how do you make decisions? In the last 3 years, we've gone from a world where we were running out of gas, you know, prices were going up, you know, gas was associated with the Middle East and global conflict, and that there was a strong push towards renewables and solar and et cetera. To one now where we've got shale oil, we've got, you know, we've got natural gas burbling out of, you know, the fracking spouts, that we're, you know, close to, you know, energy independence, and the clean tech world is in decline because there's, you know, because the economics don't compare to this newly efficient fossil fuel world. So, you know, a dramatic change in the place of, you know, fossil fuels in our energy spectrum. How does that change your thinking?
Well, the point of view that we have taken, and the reason that is behind all of our investments, is we really have taken a point of view that we all are going to pay more for energy going forward worldwide. And it's all going to be driven by economic development worldwide, and especially The mature markets are big, but the developing markets are going to grow even faster, and especially when you look at India and China, where we have very significant operations. So the reason that we are focusing so much on fuel efficiency and CO2 reduction is that it is a reason to buy, because the economics are going to, people are going to be looking for economical solutions, both for the quality, the fuel efficiency, and the safety. The thing that we are going to continue to do is to work with all the governments around the world to help facilitating this dialogue about where do we really want to go with energy and which kinds of energy. But in the meantime, we need to invest in each of those, because it's not clear now which one is going to be the one that comes on the fastest.
So you don't feel that the advances in oil exploration and extraction over the past couple of years have changed in any way the long-term view of what we're going to need?
Yeah, we absolutely, because clearly, fossil fuels are going to be with us for a while. And to your point, when it comes to energy density, they lend themselves so much better to transportation. But the new ones are like natural gas on the bigger vehicles, where you don't have the constraints of the packaging with the big tanks. They're fantastic, but also we need the infrastructure to be put in place so that we can use it. Same thing on the electric grid, as you pointed out. A really exciting possibility to us is the fact that as we bring on more efficient batteries, and the grids are generally sized for the peak hours, and they're not used on the off-peak. But you can imagine to a world that's not very far away, that with very efficient batteries, we'll be able to store the electricity, be able to move the electricity between our house, between our vehicles, between the utilities. And then if we then also focus on how to generate that energy clean, I think we're going to make a lot of progress to where we all want to get.
Tell me a little bit more about the economics of the batteries. So you were recently speaking, you were describing what it costs, what the battery pack for like the new Ford Focus Electric is. Can you tell a little bit about how you think about the cost of a battery pack as a CEO and as a kind of a product planner?
Oh, you bet. What Chris is talking about is that we revealed a little bit about the size and the packaging and the cost of these batteries. And it's very interesting. If you just take, say, a hybrid and a plug-in hybrid and an all-electric. And a hybrid, the battery could be maybe a 1.5, 1.7 kilowatt-hour battery. It can weigh around 100 pounds and costs around $2,000. And what's neat about that is you operate on electricity for a portion. So if you're not running very many miles, that's great. But if you also need the flexibility of a longer range, you also have an internal combustion engine that can provide that. If you go to a plug-in, then you have the ability to charge it. You also have the ability to operate on all electricity, even in a bigger way, because the battery's bigger, but also you have an internal combustion engine also to support you for longer ranges. And that battery could be, say like a 7.5 kilowatt hour battery. It could weigh 200 to 300 pounds and cost maybe $6,000 to $8,000. Then if you move to the all-electric battery and just using the lithium-ion chemistry for the battery today, moving off of the nickel metal hydride, that you can get a battery that weighs about 600 to 800 pounds. It's a 23 kilowatt hour battery, and it costs between $13,000 and $15,000. Now you can imagine, to the point, because you mentioned the Focus, and you look at our lineup, the Focus and the Fiesta, the Focus, the Fusion, the Taurus, the Mustang, the Escape, all of those small and medium-sized vehicles, that you can imagine that on vehicles that cost $22,000 to $25,000, you're adding a $15,000 battery, which is why you see the ranges for the all-electric vehicles being in the $35,000 to $40,000. Now, as energy goes up, you can make an economic case that it's a benefit because of the fuel that you save. But that's why the most important thing that we do, that the industry is doing, all of us are doing, is how do we make more efficient, lighter weight, more affordable batteries, which is going to not benefit just us, but it's going to benefit everybody in the industry.
Well, tell me more about that. $15,000 for a battery pack, and what is the range that you get from that?
For an all-electric, it could be over 100 miles.
Okay, so $15,000 for 100-mile range, which is pretty much what people need, except. Now, we don't have a Moore's law of lithium battery chemistry. It declines, but not at the rates we're used to in the semiconductor industry. What When you look at the future, do you see breakthroughs on the horizon, or what's going to change with that?
I think so, and we're very pleased with the progress we made with lithium-ion batteries, especially off of the nickel metal hydride. But I think that some of the exciting things that we're seeing for the enabling technologies are going to be new chemistries that are going to allow us to not only make the batteries smaller, but also lighter weight. And another key thing about batteries is their ability to charge both in hot and cold temperatures and hold their charge. And I think another thing that's going to happen is that with the charging technology, we're going to be able to get the charging times down. And you've seen some of ours that are down in the 3 to 4 hours now, which again goes back to the whole lifestyle. How do you live with this basic technology? But I think with the effort that we're putting into the enabling technologies, we're going to see some great breakthroughs in the not too distant future.
China has made battery technology a core national priority. They want this to be the sort of the oil fields that they can dominate. Can America compete in battery production?
Oh, absolutely, and I think it goes at the heart of American technology and innovation. It's been what has powered manufacturing. 70%, I think, Chris, of all the research and development in the United States today is still associated with manufacturing with a big M. And our ability to design and create and innovate with these kind of solutions, especially with something that's so important to not only the automobile industry, but all of industry as batteries, there's no reason that we can't continue to compete with the best in the world.
Are we going to, we don't have labor efficiencies. The lithium is in Bolivia or something. What's our strength there?
Well, in the lithium chemistry itself, there are a number of sources, as you were alluding to. So it's more of like a commodity that is available. I find it interesting, the conversation about competitiveness and wages and benefits, because it's not that you have to have the lowest, but you have to have the most innovative and the most creative, right? Because that's what's made us strong, is our fact of pursuing enabling technology and then innovating with that to provide solutions that the customers really do want. And I'm just, one of the things that we did that we didn't talk about is our cost structure, remember, in the United States was such that we couldn't make smaller vehicles in the United States and make them profitably. So we pulled all the stakeholders together, and especially our unions, and that transformation agreement that we made, going from defined benefits to defined contribution, the entry-level wages that were competitive that made sense, the retiree health care, we dealt with that with a separate VIA that we financed, and also simplifying all the work rules. We now are competing with the best companies in the world right here in the United States. And what's so neat is that we're also, with the flexibility that we have in our plants, that petrol version of the Focus, the hybrid, the plug-in hybrid, and the all-electric are all off the same production line, and we can match now what you want. We can match that production to the real demand, and we're doing it right here in the United States, and we're bringing work back to the United States because we're competing. So that's very exciting.
So you're moving car production back to the United States?
Absolutely.
From
right now, Mexico.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, from Mexico to the United States,
Yeah.
because you've got the economics of manufacturing in America.
Absolutely.
Better. Terrific. So we have, we're going to be moving to Q&A, and there's been a couple questions over Twitter, and then I'm going to take questions. Let me start with one question from the Twitter audience, and then we'll move to the audience here. The question was, did you ever think, was there ever sort of moment of doubt where you thought that Ford might in fact go bankrupt, that you wouldn't be able to turn it around? And what, if anything, would you have done differently in hindsight?
Wow. Well, I think my thought about that question, it really is associated with what was happening in the United States. Because clearly when we borrowed our small home improvement loan and we restructured the business, and then we actually accelerated the investment of all these new vehicles, no one could have anticipated where the economy was going, and the banking crisis and the sovereign debt crisis. And we borrowed more money than we actually needed for the transformation, but because we knew that things were slowing down. But it was pretty, the United States was in a very, very precarious position, as you know. And so I think it was more against that backdrop of the entire economy in the United States. I never had doubt that we could transform Ford, because in the automobile business, the investment you make to compete on the world stage, if you have a point of view about where you're going with the product line and what the customers really value and what they want, the amount of money that you invest every year, you can transform a company in 3 or 4 years. I know this might not sound like might sound interesting to everybody, but one of the things I was most concerned about was the culture at Ford. And Bill Ford had shared with me that the Kremlin came to mind a couple of times when he was telling me about it, and the infighting, and the businesses didn't operate as one company. And I can remember, how was I going to break through that to create a safe environment where everybody knew what the plan is, what the status was, and we were working together. So I started our business plan review every Thursday morning, 7 o'clock, all the business unit leaders from around the world, all the skill teams like product development, which has been well documented. So we got the data flowing, we color-coded the charts, red, yellow, and green, how it was going. And remember, I just had seen shared our profit forecast at $17 billion loss, and all 300 charts were green. And I finally stopped the meeting at one time and I said, we're going to lose $17 billion. Is there anything that's not going well throughout the Ford empire? And, of course, I contacted the floor, and because they didn't know me, and I was saying that we wanted a safe environment. So a couple of weeks later, everything's green, and then Mark Fields, who runs the Americas, had a launch of a new Escape in Oakville, Canada, and they had an issue with the actuator on the rear door, and we had made a commitment. Absolutely the finest quality, where we're going to deliver the vehicle. So we stopped the production line, had about 3,000 edges out there, and so the business plan review starts, we get the Mark section, up comes this chart for the launches, and here is bright red, bright on the technology, bright on the schedule, and bright on the cost. And I mean, it got really quiet. Now we're going to find out what this guy's really like. Mark's out of here, gone, toast. And so Mark explained it, and I started to clap. And then they thought, that really is a sign. The door's going to open, people are going to Mark's out of here, because that's what happened before. And I said, that's great visibility, and is there anything we can do, team, to help? And I remember Derek Cusack was head of product development at the time, said, I think I've seen an issue like that on such and such, I'll get you that technical data. Benny Fowler, who ran quality, said, I saw that on the launch, blah, 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 I'll get you the data. Joe Hendricks, who was leading manufacturing, said, well, we're going to find the issue, we're going to get a solution, and we're going to need to turn these vehicles around that are already made, so I'm going to get you some manufacturing engineers and get them up to Canada right away. That interchange took maybe 10 seconds. On we went to the next chart, green, 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 green. Maybe next week or 2 weeks later, Mark's chart turned to yellow. They found the problem, had a design solution. The next week, I think it maybe turned to green, and all the vehicles started flowing around the world. And then to your point, the place where I practiced emotional resilience the most was the next week, when the entire rainbow, the entire set of charts looked like a rainbow, because everybody decided it was safe. We had broken through that part, and now not only did we know why we were losing $17 billion, but now we could all pull together on this plan to make this full family of best-in-class vehicles and help each other get it done.
I love the expression, you practiced emotional resilience.
Yes.
Let me take some questions here from the audience. So starting over here, please.
Hi, Rich Greenfield over at BTIG. Question about, as the car gets IP enabled, do you envision actual wireless technology being built right into the car? Do you think it'll end up really being driven off of the mobile device, whether it's a tablet or a smartphone? And then just related to that, in the current radio world, satellite radio has been a huge boon for the car industry with kind of a one-click button for satellite. As you move to the IP world with the Pandoras, the Spotifys, and the iHearts, will it be a free-for-all? Do you expect certain winners, or do you think the consumer will have just lots of choices in the car with no one clear winner like happened in satellite?
Yeah, absolutely. And on the first question, the latter, and on the second question, the latter. And I know you know what you asked, but that is exactly the way we're thinking about it. The reason that we took out all of the embedded part was that we wanted to operate at the speed of the consumer electronics. So everything about our system in Sync and MyFord is the use of smart devices. And then we also made the decision that the best thing for the use inside an automobile was voice activation, so you could keep your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road. And on all of the other application programs like Pandora or whatever, the ones that you described, the consumer will decide which of those will be the applications of choice, and we'll make those available in the vehicle. But what we want to do is, remember the old days where everything was embedded in the car, Well, it's moving so fast that we want to absolutely keep that interface clean, and then we have the operating system, and then we manage the driving experience while the consumer electronics brings the apps to the car.
And unlike satellite, you won't have to pay for anything that comes into the car from a service standpoint.
That's another really good point, is that we made this a reason to buy Ford, not to make money off of it ourselves. So that's why when we say quality and fuel efficiency, saving, smart design, we want this to be a reason to buy, not to have to pay for it. Because it's almost like Chris said earlier. He said that he heard somebody talking about Ford, and they were one of the comments we made was Ford, the mobile app of choice, meaning that, you know what I mean. We'll meet you right outside and take care of your needs.
We have a question over here on the side of the audience. Bring the mic. Oh, over there. Thank you.
Richard Titus. I'm the producer of a movie called Who Killed the Electric Car? First, I want to say well done in embracing the new technologies that you guys have done. I mean, Ford's made a real turnaround. However, my question is, as the proud owner and investor in Tesla, which my car goes 200 miles on any charge, why are we still building crippled vehicles that only go 100 miles per charge?
I think in our case, it's fundamentally the economics and the customers that we're serving. Because, as you well know, it's kind of back to Henry Ford's original vision of opening the highways to all mankind, is that the customer set that we have is to get it to everybody, the democratization of technology. And so just like those sequences of the different options for electric vehicles, we clearly see that the majority of the electrification will be the hybrids first, then the plug-in hybrids, and then all the electric from a volume point of view. So it's all based on the economics and getting as much of that technology to as many people as we possibly can.
Well, I know we have more questions, but unfortunately, I think you have a plane to catch, and we have to race you
I do.
Out to the airport. So please join me in thanking Alan.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting. Thank you.